The holidays might be over, but that shouldn't stop us from enjoying some turkey. This is the 81 proof wild turkey. Let me tell you about it. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt, I'm the whiskey nerd, and like I said, this week I'm looking at the 81 proof classic wild turkey. So let me get it into the glass and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Now, many people are going to be familiar with the Wild Turkey brand, especially the Wild Turkey 101, which is one of the best value bourbons on the market. So if you can get a 101 proof of Wild Turkey, what's the point in the 81 proof? Well, the idea is that this should be able to deliver all the same flavors as the Wild Turkey 101, but without any of the burn. Because it's 20 proof lower, that's 10% lower in alcohol, it should have a softer, a fruitier, a more approachable palate without having all that burn. So let's get into the details behind this bottle. It is the same as the Wild Turkey 101, so it is a straight bourbon from Kentucky, so it is going to be at least 4 years old. Now on the label they say that it's aged for up to 5 and 8 years, so that means it's going to be having some whiskey in it that's about 4 years old, some whiskey that's maybe about 8 years old, so it is a blended whiskey without an age statement, but you're going to be guessing it's between 4 and 8 years old in the bottle. It uses the classic Wild Turkey mash bill of 75% corn, 13% rye and 12% malted barley, so it's a fairly straightforward kind of profile in there, but it does have a lot of rye, so it should have a lot of spiciness, and I'm hoping that that spiciness has continued delivering into the palate of the whiskey, because that's a very classic kind of Wild Turkey flavor profile. Additionally, it was aged in very heavily charred American oak barrels. They call it alligator char, so it should have a huge amount of kind of oak influence and sweetness coming from that char. So let's not waste any more time and let's go in for the nose on the Wild Turkey 81. Cheers. Okay, immediately, oak, cinnamon, vanilla, caramel, a bit of cherry, all those classic kind of bourbon notes are there. There's also some kind of peanuts, like it's almost like a cross between like a creamy peanut butter and like a peanut brittle, you know, that hard caramel kind of roasted peanut flavor you get. It's somewhere between there. Like, there is a little bit of creaminess coming through, but I've also got that kind of roasted peanut butter flavor coming through as well. So it's a nice amount of peanut flavor coming through into the whiskey. There's also like a bit of orchard fruits coming through. I wouldn't say, now they say it's kind of like a pear. I wouldn't say it's like a pear. I'd say it's almost more like an apple. Like if you think of a really heavily spiced applesauce, like with lots of cinnamon, bit of clove, like bit of nutmeg, you know, those classic baking spices, and a bit of apple. If you think of that really heavily spiced kind of applesauce flavor, that's what I'm getting on the nose here. And the more I sit with it, the more I go back to it, I'm getting more of that vanilla. Like there is a good bit of vanilla in there, but the more I go back to it, the more I'm getting this kind of creaminess, this kind of creamy vanilla character coming through, instead of a heavily spicy character coming through, which was more apparent on the higher proof 101's nose. Yeah, it's not lacking in flavor on the nose. There's no note that I'm not really able to get. There's no note that it's kind of hiding beneath everything else. Like when I reviewed some other bourbons that were at a lower proof, they did have a weaker nose. This does have a fairly nice nose on it. So let's go in for the palate and see if it keeps on delivering. Cheers. The palate is immediately light, but there's a good amount of oak coming through into it as well. There's like a nice bit of oak spiciness coming through from those charred barrels. I'm getting a little bit of like kind of black pepper, more of the vanilla, kind of a caramel note, like if you think of like a butterscotch where there's a caramel flavor and that vanilla flavor mixed together. That's kind of what I was getting on the palate. Like I said, it was kind of light, but it was still a good amount of flavor in there, so I'm going to go in again and see what else I can find. Cheers. Second sip round, definitely getting more of that spice developing, definitely getting more of that kind of spicy character coming through. It definitely is building up as you drink more of the whiskey. Like the mouthfeel is coming on too. Like originally it was kind of a light mouthfeel. The more you drink it, the more you get a little bit of like a mouth coating mouthfeel, kind of like you're eating like a caramel sweet, where you get this sweetness all over your mouth. It's not particularly heavy, it's not particularly strong. It is there, it just helps to kind of balance out that rising spice as you drink more of it. So I'm gonna go in again, but this time we're gonna talk about the finish. Cheers. On the finish, as it fades down, getting more of that peanuts from the start, like that peanut brittle. As I breathe, that peanutty kind of note is coming through. Getting some of that creamy vanilla, kind of buttery vanilla coming through as well. There's still plenty of spice, like that oak spice, that rye spice, that peppery kind of characteristic is still there. But as I breathe, I'm definitely able to get a bit more of that kind of notes from the nose, the kind of creamier, lighter notes from the nose. They're making a bit of a reappearance into the finish. I will say this is a very easy bourbon to drink. I mean, it is coming in at 81 proof. That is just a hair over the floor of what's legally allowed to be called bourbon, to be called whiskey. But it is a very nice whiskey because it's at that lower proof. It doesn't have a lot of heat. It doesn't have a lot of burn. You still get all the kind of flavors. You still get all that kind of peppery spice, you still get that oak char, but you don't have any of that burn coming through. So to go back to the earlier question, what is the point of Wild Turkey 81? Well, it's just a very nice bourbon, and that's the point of it. If you're maybe newer to bourbon, or if you don't like the higher proof whiskeys, Wild Turkey 81 is a very nice bourbon. It delivers all those classic flavors you want. It delivers all the Wild Turkey flavors you want, just in a more approachable, kind of softer, kind of easier to drink bottle. And while yeah, it's possible for you to buy a bottle of the Wild Turkey 101, then add some water yourself to bring down the proof, they've done it here for you. I mean, the whiskey is properly married. When you add water, it does take a bit of time for that water to kind of properly mix in with the whiskey, to break down the oils and to get really incorporated into it. So they've done the work for you here. And as far as I'm aware, it's actually at the same price point, like ABV to ABV. It's about 80% of the ABV of Wild Turkey 101, but it's also about 80% of the price of Wild Turkey 101. So you're not really losing out by going for this one, by going for like the lower proof one, especially if you're looking for making like a cocktail or two where you want the bourbon flavor, but you don't really want that burn. You don't really want the alcohol hit to come through into the cocktail, but you do want the flavors coming through. In fact, I'll be making a hot buttered bourbon later on, which I'll be putting up this week on Friday, which you should definitely check out because I used the Wild Turkey 81 in that cocktail to bring through the flavor, to bring through the kind of nice bourbon notes without bringing through the alcohol heat. So if you want to see that cocktail video, make sure you scroll down, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. I put out whiskey reviews on Wednesdays, I put out cocktail recipes on Fridays, and sometimes I put out fun little videos on Mondays. So if you want to see more like that, make sure you hit subscribe. I'm going to keep on enjoying Wild Turkey. I'd say that you should get yourself a bottle if you haven't already, and you should enjoy it too. And I will see you next time. Sláinte.